Love makes people do crazy things, but for these 6 hopeful romantics, their quest for the ultimate proposal became a fatal miscalculation. These are the shocking stories of when romantic intentions turned into final moments. What you're about to witness will forever change how you think about taking risks for love. It was May 14, 2016, in a calm coastal inlet near Clearwater, Florida, where light winds, gentle swells, and warm afternoon conditions drew several recreational boats. Lyle Preston, 36, worked in marine equipment sales and had spent years advising others on safe boating practices, a background that gave him confidence bordering on complacency. Friends described him as someone who trusted experience more than caution, especially on the water. He believed the proposal would be simple and controlled, dismissing the idling engine as a minor detail he could manage. His girlfriend of 3 years sat in the cockpit filming, unaware he planned to propose at the stern. She had previously expressed discomfort around the engine while underway, but assumed he knew what he was doing. The 24-foot center console boat drifted approximately 200 yards from shore with its engine in gear, at idle speed to maintain position against the current. A GoPro camera had been mounted near the engine housing, angled to capture the stern deck area where Lyle intended to propose. The fiberglass deck surface showed typical moisture from spray and humidity, creating a slick coating across the non-skid surface. Lyle had positioned himself near the boat's transom, where the propeller churned steadily beneath the surface, roughly 3 feet below the deck level. The engine's idle speed maintained just enough thrust to counteract the inlet's gentle current, keeping the boat stationary while the propeller remained fully engaged and continuing to rotate beneath the surface. As his girlfriend began recording from the cockpit, Lyle moved into his planned position at the stern. The GoPro captured him preparing to lower himself to one knee on the wet fiberglass surface. The boat's gentle rocking motion, combined with the slippery deck conditions, created an unstable platform for his intended proposal stance. While transitioning to the kneeling position, Lyle's right knee lost traction on the moisture-covered fiberglass. His foot slipped sideways, causing him to lose balance and fall backward off the stern platform. The fall carried him directly into the water behind the boat, where the propeller continued rotating beneath the surface. The spinning blades made immediate contact as Lyle entered the water. The propeller's position and the boat's movement brought him into multiple rapid propeller strikes within seconds of entering the water. The injuries occurred within the first few seconds of water entry, causing severe trauma to his torso and extremities. Lyle briefly broke the surface, visible in the GoPro footage, before losing consciousness and movement. His girlfriend immediately moved toward the engine controls, but required several seconds to locate and engage the kill switch. The engine continued running for several seconds before the kill switch was engaged and the propeller stopped. Several nearby boaters already navigating the inlet witnessed the incident and responded within minutes, approaching carefully to avoid further injury. They managed to pull Lyle aboard their vessel and immediately began transport toward the nearest dock while radioing emergency calls. His girlfriend followed in the original boat after the engine was secured and the propeller disengaged. Emergency medical personnel met the rescue boat at the marina, but pronounced Lyle deceased due to massive trauma consistent with propeller strike injuries. The investigation confirmed that the combination of wet deck conditions, boat motion, and proximity to an engaged propeller created the fatal circumstances. Marine safety investigators used the footage to reconstruct the exact sequence of events, determining that the engine remained in gear at the time of the fall. The case was closed as an accidental death caused by unsafe positioning near an engaged propeller. It was December 9, 2017, when the indoor botanical atrium in downtown Chicago maintained a controlled environment of 72 degrees Fahrenheit beneath its expansive glass dome. The 3-story space housed tropical plants and featured suspended glass walkways that crossed the atrium roughly 40 feet above the main floor. Ethan Rhodes, 34, worked in corporate event coordination and had secured after-hours access under the pretense of a private photography session. Known among colleagues for his confidence and attention to detail, Ethan believed careful planning could eliminate risk. Over several weeks, he designed an elaborate proposal meant to contrast winter imagery against the atrium's tropical setting. His girlfriend was asked to wait below and test camera framing on her phone, unaware the decorations above her were part of the proposal Ethan was still adjusting on the suspended walkway. The glass walkway was constructed from individual laminated glass panels mounted within a steel support frame, each panel measuring approximately 8 feet by 4 feet. Posted signage specified load limits intended for evenly distributed pedestrian traffic and warned against placing concentrated weight on any single panel. Despite this, Ethan arranged bags of damp artificial snow and weighted decorative elements on one central section of the walkway to create a staged proposal backdrop. Investigators later determined that the decorative arrangement concentrated significant static weight onto a single glass panel that already contained fatigue cracking at a stainless steel mounting bolt, undetectable during routine inspections. The added load did not cause immediate failure, but placed sustained stress on the panel and surrounding frame. An Insta360 camera had been positioned on the atrium's main floor, angled upward to capture the proposal from approximately 40 feet below. The wide-angle lens recorded both the glass walkway and the botanical displays beneath it, documenting the scene continuously. As the lighting reached the planned level, Ethan stepped onto the decorated panel and moved toward the center of the display. When he shifted his weight and began lowering himself to one knee, the compromised panel partially failed. Rather than shattering completely, the glass dropped unevenly within the steel frame, producing sharp fractures along one edge and a sudden tilt in the walkway surface. Ethan's lower body became trapped as the panel dropped several inches within the frame. His leg and pelvis were pinned between fractured glass and the steel support structure, while his upper body remained suspended above the opening. The camera captured his sudden collapse against the frame as the structure settled under the uneven load. Security personnel monitoring surveillance feeds noticed the incident within moments and reached the atrium floor quickly. However, the instability of the damaged walkway prevented immediate access. Emergency responders arrived minutes later and secured the structure before reaching Ethan. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. The medical examiner determined the cause of death to be catastrophic crush injuries combined with a massive laceration to the upper thigh, severing a major blood vessel and causing rapid, non-compressible hemorrhage. There was no evidence of a fall from height. The investigation concluded that the death resulted from concentrated decorative loading placed on a walkway not designed to support static installations. While the atrium structure itself met safety standards, the misuse of the walkway violated posted load warnings. The footage was reviewed by investigators to reconstruct the sequence of events, and the death was ruled accidental. The case later prompted renewed discussion within event planning and facilities management circles about the risks of modifying architectural spaces without structural assessment. It was September 22, 2018, on a downtown Austin parking garage rooftop, where warm evening air, light wind, and fading sunset colors framed an exposed 7-story concrete platform. Sutton Graves, 29, worked in digital marketing and had spent weeks planning what he believed would be a carefully controlled rooftop proposal. Colleagues described him as methodical and detail-oriented, someone who preferred orchestrating moments rather than improvising them. He chose the parking garage for its predictable access, open sightlines, and the belief that he could manage every variable himself. His girlfriend of 2 years joined him expecting a quiet sunset walk, unaware that Sutton had arranged string lights and rose petals ahead of time, convinced that a structured plan would prevent anything from going wrong. An action camera had been mounted on a tripod, positioned to capture both the sunset backdrop and Sutton's planned proposal location. The rooftop level also served as active parking, with several vehicles scattered across marked spaces. To create a dramatic entrance, Sutton had coordinated with his best friend Max to drive Sutton's modified 2015 Dodge Challenger onto the rooftop at a specific time. The plan involved Max performing a controlled burnout maneuver to create tire smoke as a theatrical backdrop, after which Sutton would propose while the camera captured the scene. Max had limited experience with performance driving, despite Sutton's assurances. The Challenger had been modified with enhanced exhaust and performance tires, producing 375 horsepower. Max positioned the vehicle approximately 40 feet from where Sutton and his girlfriend stood near the decorative setup. As the golden hour lighting peaked, Max received Sutton's signal. He engaged the line lock system to hold the front brakes while applying throttle to spin the rear tires. White clouds of tire smoke drifted across the rooftop as intended, creating the atmospheric effect Sutton had envisioned. However, Max had left the vehicle in drive and failed to maintain consistent brake pressure during the maneuver. When he pressed harder on the accelerator, the rear tires regained traction while the vehicle surged forward. The Challenger lurched forward with sudden acceleration, rear tires gripping concrete as 375 horsepower propelled the 3,700-pound vehicle directly toward Sutton's position. Max frantically attempted to brake, but the overheated front brakes responded sluggishly, delaying full braking effectiveness. Sutton turned at the revving engine sound and had less than 2 seconds to react. He attempted to push his girlfriend aside but had no time to move himself. The Challenger's front end struck Sutton at an estimated speed of 25 to 30 miles per hour, the impact launching him onto the hood before his body rolled over the windshield and off the vehicle's rear. The collision caused massive multiple system trauma, including severe chest and abdominal injuries, pelvic fractures, and traumatic aortic rupture. Max brought the vehicle to a stop 20 feet beyond the impact point, the windshield starred with cracks. Sutton's girlfriend screamed in horror. The action camera captured the entire sequence from initial burnout through the horrific collision. Emergency responders arrived within 6 minutes, but pronounced Sutton deceased at the scene due to massive internal injuries and traumatic aortic dissection. The investigation revealed the modified vehicle's braking system had not been properly upgraded for performance driving conditions. The action camera footage was recovered and reviewed by authorities during the investigation, confirming the mechanical failure sequence and later referenced in discussions about the dangers of stunt-based proposals and improper vehicle use. It was March 18, 2017, in an abandoned industrial warehouse in suburban Ohio, where overcast skies and 42-degree temperatures hung over a vast concrete interior marked by oil stains and decades of neglect. Arlo Vance, 34, worked in commercial videography and had rented the warehouse space through a short-term location rental platform, commonly used by videographers for what he described as a creative proposal shoot. Known for ambitious projects and a willingness to push beyond standard setups, Arlo believed striking visuals were what set his work apart. He spent the morning arranging equipment throughout the cavernous interior, confident his professional experience allowed him to manage the risks involved. His girlfriend of 4 years waited near the entrance, believing she was assisting with a routine client project, while a fixed camera on a heavy tripod recorded from approximately 40 feet away. The centerpiece of Arlo's setup was a rented scissor lift positioned in the warehouse's center. The hydraulic platform stood extended to roughly 25 feet, providing an elevated stage against the industrial backdrop. Earlier that day, Arlo had removed the standard guardrails to accommodate lighting equipment and achieve unobstructed camera angles, leaving him exposed while reaching outward from the elevated platform. Unknown to him, temporary power had been restored to portions of the warehouse to support lighting and filming equipment, energizing an outdated electrical system that had deteriorated significantly over the years of abandonment. As the afternoon progressed, Arlo ascended the lift using the platform controls. The platform rose smoothly to its predetermined height, where he had arranged props and positioning markers. He positioned several battery-powered LED lights around the platform's perimeter, creating the atmospheric lighting he envisioned for the proposal. The tripod camera captured Arlo moving into position on the platform, He began lowering himself to one knee, positioning himself for the proposal he had planned, with a small ring box later visible on the platform in the recorded footage. As he reached past the LED light panel toward a nearby support beam to make a final adjustment, his hand made contact with exposed wiring from a corroded metal conduit, feeding a faulty junction box mounted on the beam. Wiring he hadn't noticed during setup due to its position behind the lighting equipment. Standing on the metal scissor lift platform, his body provided a direct path to ground. The electrical shock was immediate and severe. Investigators later determined the circuit lacked effective grounding and modern protective cutoffs, allowing the current to pass through his body without interruption. The camera recorded him convulsing from the shock before collapsing motionless on the platform, the electrical contact having caused cardiac arrest. His girlfriend, seeing him suddenly collapse on the elevated platform, immediately contacted emergency services while trying to understand what had happened from her position below. The warehouse's remote location required additional time for responders to locate the building and gain access. Emergency medical personnel arrived within 15 minutes, but Arlo could not be resuscitated. The medical examiner determined death was caused by electrocution leading to cardiac arrest. The investigation revealed that the warehouse's electrical system had never been updated to modern safety codes and contained numerous code violations, including exposed wiring and absent ground fault protection. The building's owner had failed to disclose these hazardous conditions when renting the space. Investigators found scorch marks on the junction box wiring and evidence of electrical contact on Arlo's hand. The footage was analyzed by workplace safety investigators and electrical safety experts. Authorities ruled the death accidental, but cited the building owner's negligence in maintaining safe electrical systems and Arlo's unawareness of industrial electrical hazards as contributing factors. The case prompted renewed scrutiny of abandoned industrial spaces being offered for short-term rental. It was June 15, 2016, along the Pacific coast near Big Sur. Clear afternoon skies and offshore winds drew tourists to scenic overlooks above a 120-foot drop to jagged rocks below. Reese Calhoun, 27, had driven up from his retail job at an outdoor equipment store in Monterey, where he spent most days selling gear designed for risks he increasingly wanted to take himself. Known among friends for chasing dramatic shots rather than safe ones, Reese had built a modest social media following by positioning himself closer to edges, drops, and unstable terrain than most photographers would attempt. His girlfriend of 2 years joined him, believing it was another routine photo outing, unaware that Reese had been growing frustrated with stagnant engagement numbers and felt pressure to create something memorable enough to stand out. In recent months, he had begun prioritizing visual impact over caution, convinced that a single striking moment could change his trajectory. The couple arrived at a lightly marked coastal overlook around 2:30 p.m., noting the weathered warning signs about unstable shale formations near the cliff edge. Reese unpacked his small drone and smartphone equipment, explaining his plan to capture aerial footage synchronized with ground-level recording. The tide was approaching its lowest point, exposing more of the rocky coastline below and creating the dramatic wave action he wanted as a backdrop. Reese launched the drone approximately 50 feet offshore, positioning it to hover roughly level with the cliff face, making constant micro-adjustments against the coastal wind. His girlfriend began recording on her smartphone as he moved toward the edge, stepping carefully around loose rocks and patches of crumbling shale. The overlook's surface showed clear signs of erosion, with several areas where previous chunks had broken away. Moving backward to frame the shot properly, Reese guided his positioning while keeping his eyes on the drone's camera angle. He lowered himself to one knee, roughly 4 feet from the edge, positioning himself for a proposal. The smartphone footage captured him reaching into his jacket pocket, where a small ring box was later confirmed by investigators. As Reese adjusted his position, his right heel pressed down on a section of fractured shale that extended beneath the surface soil. The geological instability that the warning signs referenced became immediately apparent as a large section of fractured shale beneath the surface sheared away in a cascading failure, taking the surface beneath his feet with it. The drone's aerial perspective captured the collapse near the cliff edge and the immediate aftermath below. He struck an outcropping of rock roughly halfway down before continuing to the boulder field below. The impact with the lower rocks was severe, causing immediate cessation of movement. The drone maintained its position briefly under active stabilization before beginning a slow automated drift as battery power declined, continuing to record until the signal cut out. His girlfriend remained at the overlook and immediately contacted emergency services. The remote location required specialized rope access equipment, delaying the recovery team's arrival until nearly 5 p.m. Responders confirmed death at the scene, citing massive blunt force trauma consistent with the fall distance and rocky terrain. The incident was ruled an accidental death due to a geological hazard. Both the smartphone and drone footage were recovered and analyzed by authorities. The drone's memory card contained the complete sequence, which was later reviewed as part of the investigation, after being downloaded from the controller, documenting the unstable cliff conditions that claimed Reese's life. It was July 3, 2015, at Lake Havasu's public boat ramp. Clear evening skies and holiday crowds filled the launch area, where weekend boaters and families gathered along the shoreline ahead of planned fireworks. Nicolette Banks, 31, worked in event coordination and had spent weeks planning what she hoped would be a once-in-a-lifetime lakeside proposal. Accustomed to managing weddings and large public events, she'd grown confident in her ability to orchestrate complex moments under pressure. Friends described her as meticulous but drawn to spectacle, convinced that memorable experiences required bold visual impact. In the months leading up to the trip, she spoke openly about wanting the proposal to feel unmistakably big, something her boyfriend would never forget. Rather than hiring professionals, Nicolette chose to handle the fireworks herself, purchasing an assortment of consumer-grade aerial shells from a roadside stand. She believed smaller fireworks would be safer, while still delivering the dramatic effect she envisioned. Her boyfriend of 3 years waited nearby, unaware of her plan, while a close friend positioned herself roughly 30 feet away with a smartphone to document the surprise. The setup depended on precise timing and placement, leaving little margin for error. The public boat ramp's concrete surface showed typical wear from constant trailer traffic, with uneven sections and lingering moisture from lake splash. Nicolette arranged 4 medium-sized fireworks inside empty 5-gallon plastic buckets instead of proper stabilizing racks, placing them in a loose line about 6 feet from where she planned to kneel. She had seen similar setups used casually at backyard celebrations and assumed the buckets would be sufficient. Resting directly on wet concrete, the plastic bucket sat on a low-friction surface, offering almost no resistance to recoil, an overlooked detail that would prove critical once the fireworks ignited. As the sun approached the horizon, Nicolette moved into position near the makeshift setup. Her friend began recording as Nicolette approached the first firework, positioning herself within arm's reach of the bucket to coordinate the ignition with the planned proposal. The smartphone footage captured Nicolette lighting the fuse while facing toward the camera and her boyfriend's location. The ignition appeared successful, with the fuse burning normally for approximately 2 seconds. However, the lightweight plastic bucket immediately began shifting as the fireworks' internal pressure built toward launch. The shell's initial thrust caused the entire firework to tip sideways within the unstable bucket. Instead of launching vertically as designed, the projectile discharged horizontally across the dock surface at close range. The shell traveled less than 15 feet at a shallow upward angle roughly level with her upper body before impact. The impact occurred at close range, with the projectile's timed burst charge igniting moments after impact. The blast force and fragmentation caused catastrophic injuries, leading to rapid collapse. The smartphone recording captured the flash and smoke, followed by confused reactions from nearby bystanders, who initially assumed the explosion was part of the planned display. Several witnesses approached but quickly backed away upon recognizing the severity of the injuries. The friend continued recording for several more seconds before stopping the video and calling emergency services. Other boaters in the immediate area began clearing the ramp to allow access for responders. Emergency medical personnel arrived within 8 minutes, but pronounced Nicolette deceased at the scene. The investigation revealed that the aerial fireworks used were later determined to be restricted consumer fireworks under local regulations, and that proper stabilization and safe distance protocols had not been followed. The plastic buckets provided insufficient weight and stability for the shell's launch force. The smartphone footage was reviewed by authorities during the investigation and became key evidence in the accidental death ruling, documenting the improper fireworks handling that resulted in Nicolette's death. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now.